Hey everyone, welcome to Exploring Health, Macro to Micro. I'm your host, Parker Condit. In the show, I interview health and wellness experts around topics like sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress management, mental health, and much more. So by the end of each episode, you'll have concrete, tangible advice that you can start implementing today to start living a healthier life, either for yourself or for your loved ones. And today, this is the second episode of a new monthly format we're doing called On the Floor, where I have a co-host. And the co-host is Danielle Pellicano. For anyone who doesn't know, Danielle is a great trainer and endurance coach and one of my best friends. If you want to learn more about Danielle, please check out episode 3, where she was the guest, and we did a full, I think, almost 90 minutes in the traditional conversational style interview. So if you want to learn more, plenty of content there for you to get to know Danielle. For context, the On the Floor segment was sort of born out of the idea where I haven't been training with clients and I haven't been in a one-on-one setting in many years. So a lot of my commentary on health and fitness, it feels a little bit like it's coming from an armchair critic perspective. And when you're not on the floor, you end up losing touch with what people are actually talking about. But Danielle is on the floor, and Danielle has been recording people's questions. So the way the show works is we will play one of the questions that Danielle has recorded. We'll go back and forth answering from each of our perspectives, and each answer takes about 10 minutes. And we do 3 questions per episode. So in this episode, we're going over nutrition advice for somebody who's switching from heavyweight training to more endurance style training, how to find motivation to work out when on vacation or during travel, and then what's the deal with pre-workout? A question from somebody who works out early in the morning and doesn't always have energy. On the Floor episodes are going to be released on the last Monday of each month at 6 a.m., just like all the other episodes. So I hope you enjoyed this On the Floor episode with Danielle Pellicano. Danielle, welcome back. Another episode of On the Floor. We've got 3 more questions today. And again, anyone listening, if you don't know who Danielle is, please go check out episode 3. We do almost an hour and a half, kind of going, Ooh. It was long. Yeah, I think it was long. Going over a lot of things, your background, training philosophy, suffering, endurance sports. We covered a lot in that episode. So if you want more familiarity with Danielle, please go check that out. But also throughout this, you're going to gain a great look into Danielle's personality and expertise. Today, we've got 3 more questions. This is going to be the continued format we're working with, at least in the meantime. 3 questions from people on the gym floor that Danielle has recorded. Today, we're talking a little bit about macronutrient considerations for somebody who's switching from weight training to more endurance-based training. Somebody was asking about motivation to work out while on vacation or during work travel. Very relevant. And then somebody was asking about pre-workout, who works out in the morning. So I think that's going to be an interesting one because that's something I never really think about, actually. But we're just going to dive right into the first one, unless you have anything to say before we get going.
No. Hi. Welcome. Thank you. I'm excited.
I
love having these questions. It's fun.
Yeah, no, this is a really, and by the way.
And there was no preparation. These are like, I just walk up to people and I just say, if you can ask myself and Parker any question, what would it be? And they're just like, boom.
Yeah, by the way, if you get caught up, or if we get caught up in any banter in the middle of these, you just have to deal with that, because this is largely a segment for us to provide value to people asking questions, but it's also a great excuse for us to catch up. And sometimes we go down a rabbit hole and we nerd out on something that's not really related. So if that happens, sorry, but that's the price you have to pay.
There you go.
All right. So let's get Brett going on this first one.
All right. Switching over from more heavy weight training to more endurance training. I need a better handle on macros and what's required.
All right. Brett, what was he doing? Stair stepper?
Yes. And Brett is 60. And killing it.
60, killing it. Any other backstory about him?
So Brett is like your textbook former CrossFitter, competed pretty competitively, to be fair. Always been an athlete. Yep, always been an athlete. Has hired me to really as a human performance coach is what I like, taking total control of his wellness package. And of course, it would be un-Pellicano of me not to try to get people more into the endurance side of life. So everything has changed for Brett. Like, his foundation from a strength and conditioning standpoint is super high and he's super dialed in. Now it's trying to pepper in more of the endurance side of things, getting him prepared for more backcountry, heli skiing, stuff like that, which is super fun for me. So injury prevention is a big one, and cardio.
Really fun. All right. Yeah. So just diving into what he was asking about macronutrient considerations when shifting from more of a heavy strength training routine to more endurance-based training. And before we get into that, I do want to highlight the importance of both. Like we talk a lot, you and I, we just love talking about exercise. So strength training is so important. And then people will also hear like, oh, cardio is so important. And it's like, it's not like you can have one or the other. They're both so vital for very different reasons. Like I think the best predictor for longevity is VO2 max, which is purely cardiovascular. And it's also a measure of, Danielle's frozen. Okay. It's a measure of how well you can like basically get oxygen into your body and then how well it's utilized at the muscles. So there is a muscle quality consideration there. But then another great predictor of longevity is strength and muscle mass. So it's like both sides of these are so important. There's never one that's better than the other. It's like you kind of need both, which is why we love talking about both.
Totally.
Do you want me to start just kind of going over?
I feel this is much more your wheelhouse.
Okay. So from an endurance standpoint consideration, just trying to maintain muscle mass. Again, we went over this in the last episode, but a lot of these minimums or thresholds are based on grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So if you want to kind of do some back of the napkin math throughout this, take your body weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2. That'll give you your body weight in kilograms. And I'm also going to give you examples of my body weight in kilograms and these reference points throughout this answer as well. So for endurance, to maintain muscle mass and weight, like you're not trying to lose weight, you're not trying to put on weight, and you're doing endurance sports and you're just trying to maintain, you don't want to lose muscle mass. The minimum threshold is 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And I said that fast. So I weigh 85 kilograms, or 85 is an easier number to use than 86.3. So I'm 85 kilograms. So 1.2 grams per kilogram body weight would be about 102 grams of protein I need per day if I'm doing endurance activities and I don't want to gain weight and I don't want to lose weight. I just want to maintain my muscle mass, which if you're doing endurance sports, that is probably your goal. Getting heavier is generally not advantageous in the endurance world, but you definitely want to maintain the muscle mass that you have. So 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight is a minimum. And then if you're doing high volume, and there's a few different studies around this. So the thresholds for what high volume is, most of your clients are going to be high volume, is going to be upwards of 1.6. So again, using my numbers, that's going to be 136 grams of protein per day. So my range, if I were an endurance athlete, is going to be between 102 and 136 grams of protein per day. So that's the biggest macro consideration that I would care about from a muscle mass standpoint, from somebody who's coming in from more heavy strength training. And somebody who's coming from heavy strength training, they're probably, or I'll just go over what they probably should be doing. Their protein requirements are going to be closer to 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. That's kind of for if you want to be putting on muscle mass. So if you're doing a lot of strength training, you want to put on muscle mass, 1.6 to 1.8. And again, those numbers for me would be between 136 and 153 grams per day of protein. And then just for everyone listening, I think the RDA, the recommended daily allowance or amount of protein that's suggested for people, I think is 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight. I think that's too low. And then the study that I had referenced here was just like for life. Like if you're just living life, you're not particularly training for anything, you're a little bit active, but you don't want to lose weight, you don't want to gain weight. 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So again, I know I rattled through those pretty quickly, but feel free to just like kind of listen back to this and then you can plug in your own numbers. So again, the three ranges that I gave were for endurance training, not trying to gain weight, not trying to lose weight, 1.2 to 1.6, depending on your volume of endurance training. Regular life, if you're just living, 1.0 to 1.2. And then if you're strength training and you want to put on muscle mass, 1.6 to 1.8. There have been studies going all the way up to 2.4 grams of protein, which is really pushing the limits there. Right. A lot of protein. So that's that's more my domain. I always care about protein. I always prioritize protein, and I think it's an important thing to prioritize. But maybe, I mean, since you're working with them, can you speak to the carbohydrate requirements? Awesome.
So I always say everything when it comes to nutrition, when you have hired me towards sport, is to maximize your performance. So it's fueling, recovery. The important thing with macros, so for people that are like, I don't even know what that is, it's the nutrients that the body uses to fuel itself. So we're talking carbs, fat, protein. No, it's okay. Carbs, fat, protein. Why I love Parker and I is it speaks to our strengths. Like, he's a total protein guy, and I love that. And I'm always trying to work on it. And I am a total carb person because of my sport. So when I break things down for someone like Brett, I go 60-20-20. 60% of your calories should be from simple and complex carbs. 20% need to be healthy fats. 20% is a high quality protein. There are so many apps out there. MyFitnessPal is just the most, it's been out there forever. It's basic. However, I love that it's basic. What people like Brett, all they need are some of those numerics, meaning your window of eating throughout the day needs to be 60-20-20. It is a basic framework, but I start everyone there. And then you start figuring out, okay, what foods do I enjoy eating? And what foods do I kind of have to have in there as well to hit that pie wheel of 60-20-20? It takes a lot of thought, planning, and truly trial and error, to be honest. It's not, I do feel this is why I outsource a lot of my nutrition to dietitians and to sport nutritionists. I think it's important. They have it much more dialed in, and their testing of it so quick. I still think that framework of just 60-20-20 and starting on your own with a MyFitnessPal works wonders. And then it's something you can evaluate. No macro should be left out. And that is very important. So I know we start to teeter the scale. I'm going based off of Brett, who's already super fit. His body composition is awesome. His is completely for performance basis. So 60-20-20, though, was a big eye opener because he's more in the line of thought like you, where it's protein, not wrong. But that's at the forefront. I actually try to get people on the calories through carbs as the forefront, and they pepper in the others because that becomes, it's almost like a fear. You know, I think we look at carbs and we think weight gain. Yes, if it's crappy carbs and you're teetering the scale wrong, but that is what's fueling your sport, at least in the endurance world. Then you get to calorie counting. A very active, so again, in the endurance, a very active person, the TEDs of the world in our last podcast, Brett, they're in the gym 1 to 2 hours burning a lot. Mm-hmm. I take their body weight and I times it by 16-20 to get a caloric output. That is a number that they need to hit to just keep their energy source high. So for me, questions that I ask them, if you're never feeling recovered and you always feel lethargic, it is a nutrition issue. I go there before I even go to it's overtraining or it's a training stimulus. No, it's almost timing of foods and being under fueled.
Yep.
I could keep going.
I think that's a good point there.
Because it's another good numeric, because you gave the protein one. Yep. Mine is literally your body weight, not in kilos, just like I'm 145 pounds, times that by 16-20. My allotted calories, if I'm in that an hour to 2 hour window of fitness. So I just did an hour of my cycle class and I did 30 minutes of strength. Very standard for a lot of my lifetime clients right now. It's 90 minutes. That would put me at 2,300 to 2,900 calories in a day to just maintain what I have got going on. If I'm then trying to cut weight at all, which some are this time of year, it's important, now's the time to do it, I'm going to undermine that by like 500. And if I will knock 500 off, and that will be a healthy weight loss over time throughout the month. But it's not going to impede my training too much. If you're talking the ultra people or Ironman, now you're timesing that by 25 to 30.
Yep.
But I do think that's important when we discuss this.
Yeah, I think it's a great framework. And like people can look it up, like how to estimate calories, basically what you're referencing. There's a range based on your level of activity. And I think there's pretty good ways you can look it up. I'll just find one and I'll link it in the show notes of ways to estimate your caloric expenditure throughout the day. And it's, like what you just gave is a pretty quick and dirty back of the napkin way to do it. And the range you gave is great for, it's like understanding, be like, here's a good range for endurance athletes, which was body weight times 16-20, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So that's just a quick way to do it. Yep. That's one of the things I never really look at. So I'm glad
I think fat is huge. I love fat. Mm-hmm. Not too many women are going to say that. I love fat. It helps the body absorb vitamin A, D. What is it? A, D, E, and K.
Yeah,
and it also is truly
fat.
It's the secondary fuel source, and it's so important for endurance athletes.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to speak to some of your favorite fat sources?
I call any type of nut my hunger pill. And why I say that is I always have nuts with me everywhere because they are so high in fat. They typically will get me to the next meal and not make me make a bad decision. It sounds weird, but it takes a craving away so fast. So I'm huge in nuts and seeds. I do chia seeds a lot every morning. Hemp seeds are awesome because you keep them in the fridge and they're just easy to store. Olive oil goes almost on everything. And I eat a ton of avocados and fish.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. I mean, I'll eat bacon too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
I'd be lying if I didn't say bacon.
Okay, good. I think that was pretty comprehensive. Brett, thanks for the question. Hopefully that helps give you a little bit more a little more structure around the macros of kind of shifting from heavier strength training to more endurance-based training. Okay, number 2. I can't remember who asked this, so this might be
Ben.
All right. So I was kind of wondering, a bit curious about what the deal with the pre-workout stuff is, because I work out in the mornings. Sometimes it's tough getting the energy, but I don't know. I don't really know anything about it. So if you could help me out with that.
Okay. Pre-workout.
Oof.
Yeah, this is one of the, I was looking up a bunch of stuff. I'm like, this is something I never really think about. Did you want to give your thoughts on this first, or you want me to just want me to go?
I don't love it, but you could start.
You don't love pre-workout?
I don't love pre-workout.
Yeah, it's probably been like 7 or 8 years since I've taken pre-workout. I took it a lot in high school. For anyone who hasn't taken pre-workout, I'll just give you an idea of what it feels like to take it. Usually a good pre-workout, your hands start tingling and it feels like your heart's going to explode.
Correct.
So take that for what it's worth. I went through and kind of wrote down a list of like what are some of the common ingredients in pre-workouts. Pre-workouts are basically just something to get you amped up. And I want to be careful about the words I use. So caffeine, very common. Beta alanine, that's like that helps prevent fatigue. Creatine, I'm actually a huge fan of creatine. B vitamins for, I don't want to say energy, but energy. Electrolytes are in a lot of them, and then a lot have nitric oxide precursors. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator, so it increases blood flow, which is a good thing. So a lot of things, and then, then it's flavored. A lot of these things are 0 calorie, so there's like stevia or some sort of artificial sweetener in there. And like, I'm not saying those are bad. I'm just saying energy comes from calorie containing molecules. So we talked about macronutrients, which is great that you said that. So fats, carbs, and protein, those are energy containing molecules. All this stuff, they're basically just stimulants. So they're more like alert. They stimulate your nervous system. They're not actually giving you energy. Energy has to come from something that's calories. Calories are a measurement of energy. So to say that pre-workouts give you energy is a little bit tricky. They basically just wire you up in your nervous system. So it's not so much giving you energy in the way that you might think it is. I didn't really know what to say about pre-workout other than the fact that in all my years kind of working with people, I've never recommended that somebody take a pre-workout, but I almost always recommend coffee because I think coffee is actually a great, I think coffee is almost like a
coffee and banana goes a long way.
It's a performance enhancing drug.
Correct.
Coffee's pretty wild actually.
Yes.
A lot of polyphenols in coffee. There's a lot of health benefits to coffee, but we're not going to make that this entire question. So I think there's coffee, by the way, is a great way if you can handle it and it's not too acidic on your stomach or anything like that. It's probably the best pre-workout, and not a lot of people have died drinking coffee as far as I'm concerned. Every few years, a pre-workout will get taken off the market because somebody died because their heart basically exploded, and they probably had a pre-existing condition, but these things have happened. I don't know. It's like, I've taken enough pre-workouts where I'm like, my hands are tingling and it feels like my heart's going to explode. It's hard without a very scientific basis to say this is a really healthy thing.
I'm with you. So no, I am. And this would be my bullet points for it. I've taken it. I've tried it. I had a very adverse reaction to it. I had the jitters right away. A lot of pre-workout. So let's see what FDA, what is it? A daily dose of coffee is like, they say 400 milligrams. So it's 4 to 5 cups, right? Pre-workout has 200. Granted, they all differ, but I would say the standard ones, like Lifetimes, for example, that we sell is 200 milligrams. So you're already throwing 2 cups of coffee into your pre-workout, assuming you haven't caffeinated prior to that. Obviously, Parker and I are pushing you more towards not doing pre-workout, but I will throw some pros in a minute. But more of the cons is it is a 30-minute window to kick in. So again, I'm thinking my 6 a.m. crew, like most of my people are early morning workout people. If you're getting up at 4:30 and you're starting to sip on that pre-workout, great. You will see the benefit of it helping you during that workout when you get there at 6. If you are waiting to start sipping it during that workout, you're going to have this weird high post-workout, and then you have the jitter phase. Or if you don't experience any of those, it's because you've become dependent on it. And now you've trained your body to be able to buffer the caffeine. So if you're doing pre-workout 4 to 5 times a week, I would say that's a no-no. If you need it for like a massive big gain for a workout, I don't mind it. So if you're someone that wants to take it twice a week because you don't have the things I just said as far as what I find to be the cons of it, fantastic. It's not going to kill you. I always think if you can go more to the source of real foods, coffee, I would prefer that for people. The amino acid component of it, what is that called? Beta, what's in that? It's called beta alanine, I think is how you say it.
Beta alanine, yep.
That one. So that's the amino acid. Amino acids they increase energy, they decrease post-workout fatigue. That's probably the biggest thing about pre-workout that has the biggest perk to it, I'll say. If you want my opinion as a coach, I'd rather see you top off your hydration coming into the workout, have some carbohydrates through a source of a banana or a piece of toast with peanut butter. In your bottle, have electrolytes with some amino acids in it already. I think the amino acid conversation of it becoming only a recovery drink, why wait once you are already fatigued? I think you could start introducing amino acids throughout your workout. And that has been a combination I've been exploring, and I actually really like it.
So for anyone listening who don't know, amino acids are just broken down proteins. So you just string it together, a bunch of amino acids, and that creates protein essentially. Again, if you're not a super high level athlete, as long as you're hitting your protein requirements in the given day, the timing of it is not, it's not very important. The other thing I did want to say on pre-workout or any supplement for that matter is the supplement market is extremely poorly regulated. Which is why, like, between an option of like coffee versus a pre-workout, I'm always going to opt towards coffee just because it's a simpler, it's one ingredient, you know, there could be pesticides sprayed on the coffee fields where they might be, but you kind of have a better idea of what's going to be going into that. And it's not like there's ingredients that you can't pronounce. That's not always a bad thing. It's not a way to rule things out. But the supplement market is generally very poorly regulated.
Brian's like, thanks for that question.
Let's see.
I'm going to bring Brian a cup of coffee next time I see him. I'll be like, here's your answer.
Okay. So the other thing I did more research on this. So as far as like peak physical performance is concerned, it's going to depend a little bit on the person and like your sleep type or your chronotype. A lot of people are going to be at like peak physical condition, at least for strength training, in like 8 to 10 hours after they wake up. So if you work out in the mornings, and I'm totally this person where I'm just a little bit crunchier and slower during a morning workout. Like I'm not going to set a PR at 6 a.m. I'm just not going to. And I just understand that. So I just know that going in.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I just, most afternoon workouts, like I've been walking around, my heart rate's up, my blood pressure's up a little bit more. My core body temperature's up. Like I'm already kind of warmed up a little bit more. Like it's colder in the morning. You haven't been up for as long. Like you just need to prioritize your warm-ups a little bit more. It's not going to mitigate everything, but to think that, again, it's not for everyone, but performance being the same at 6 a.m. versus 2 or 3 or 4 p.m., it's not going to be the same, at least for me. So that's one of those other considerations where it's like, if you're a little bit tired, it just feels like it takes you a little bit longer to get going first thing in the morning. It's not necessarily a performance thing. It's just kind of a physiologic thing. Like your body's not, the oil's not as warm yet. in the body. Do you have anything else on that?
No, I feel bad. I also like being like very matter of fact on things. So it's not going to kill you if you take pre-workout. I think should be your last go-to if you really need that jolt, because that workout is very important for training purposes, or you have an upcoming race and you need to like give it your all. I do understand like wanting to feel at the top of your game. But other than that, I just think you can have more adverse reactions to it if you're not familiar with it totally, which has been most of what I've heard, to be fair.
And it's because
it's like a souped up Red Bull. It really is. It's like
wild.
A souped up Red Bull. If you're not used to it, it's just very different.
It's a very different feeling.
Which also could become kind of addictive. And I'm being honest, like if you're thinking that's the norm of that's how like in tune you're supposed to be, of course you're going to be like, I'm taking this every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to leave it at that. I do think we touched on it enough. I do think it's a great question. And I think it's one of those things where I guarantee you people flip that over and they don't know 75% of what's in it. Not that that's bad, but they can't even pronounce half the names. They're like, well, what is that?
Right.
They see just beet juice and caffeine. They're like, sweet, that's got to be good for me.
All right, moving on.
Wondering how you motivate to work out on vacation or work travel.
Great.
I love Ben.
Do you know how much he travels? Because I think
Ben travels a lot.
Okay.
I would say my relationship with Ben has been over the last year, and he has learned to really enjoy group fitness, which I greatly appreciate. It's provided him a lot of structure. And I think once you crave structure and then you go travel, you're like, where do I get my structure?
I think there's a few different ways to approach this. One of them is understanding like how consistent you are when you're, let's just say at home. I don't mean at home, but like at your home gym. And then also there's context to like what your goals are. If you're just trying to be generally healthier and you're pretty consistent about how you work out when you're at home, like just don't hold yourself to the same standard when you're on the road. It's really easy if you're normally working out Monday, Wednesday, Friday at your home gym, and then you travel the next week and you're on the road Monday through Friday. The expectation to work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday could lead you to be disappointed if you don't hit all three workouts. So I think mentally it's managing your expectations. Number 2 is setting yourself up for success. If you're going to be on the road, like bring the appropriate clothes. If you have any control over like where you're staying, if you have a gym on site, that's going to be more convenient than having to go find a gym. Or the thing that I found the most this year was that running is such an accessible thing that you don't even need a gym. So I love just being able to bring running clothes when I was on the road. And it was usually like if I was for every 2 days I was away, if I could do one workout, that was great, but I wouldn't beat myself up over it. So if I was on the road for 6 days and I did 3 workouts, great. If I did 2, like that was fine too. Like I would just try not to beat myself up over it. Curious what your thoughts on it though.
I'm just going to plug it. You should plug my home team _PEC account on Instagram. And why I say that is that has become like the solution to any of my clients that I do programming for. That I, during COVID, had to create pretty much 30 to 45 minute workouts with a band, with nothing, or maybe a set of dumbbells. So there's over 100 videos on there that have been wonderful for people who travel. And that is definitely was going to be my go-to answer, because they're very relatable, and I think I'm kind of funny, so the banter is quite great. But the workouts are hard. They're really hard, actually. I was like, wow, I was real fit.
And it totally speaks to who you are, that you could set up your camera in an empty garage.
Correct.
And just talk to the camera and be excited every day. Talk about polar opposites of our strengths. It's like everyone, and it's like you're not faking it. Like you're actually enthused to be doing it. You are excited for it.
And there was no feedback loop whatsoever. And I just became really good at talking to myself, thinking this would be what someone might be saying on the other side of the camera.
Yep. You're just talking to yourself, giving yourself feedback, working out by yourself.
But I've looked at them and I go through them now, and I almost think they're
great.
They hold more value even now than even during COVID, because I have so many of my clients that are now on this routine of just being so regimented that I just plug them and I just send them. I go, hey, Ben, do this one, and this one. And if you can get 3 in, to your point, if you're gone for a week, if you can get 3 in 30 minutes, you will feel so much better. I also think sticking to a routine of time matters. So don't think about when in the day you might get it done. If you're someone that works out at 6, get up again and do it at 6. If you're someone that does it at 10, go at 10. But if you could stay on some of your routine that you do when you are home, that plays a big role. And I would say something's better than nothing. So instead of feeling like I can't, to your point, if I can't get my full hour run in, I'm just not even going to run. That's a little ridiculous. I mean, you could do a 2-mile run and walking lunges and some push-ups, and I guarantee you'll get like that endorphin high that you were hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a no excuses mentality. And you unfortunately have to have that because it's very easy to make the excuses. We have so much technology accessible to us and so many resources that you can get it done if you need to. You just have to set it up the night before in your mind that you are going to go do it.
Yeah. And if you're traveling like across time zones, you spoke to consistency of when you're working out. If you can try, I think it's like if you're going to be away for less than 3 days, you should try to keep your same circadian clock. So again, like exercise can be one of those great things. Like exercise and meals are a great way to maintain a circadian rhythm or like internal clock, essentially. One of the other things I had written down is like, and we spoke to this in the episode, the long episode that we did, episode 3. The idea of like, can you work out without music or can you run without music? So one of my notes was like, are you a gear nerd? Like, so if you require a ton of gear and music and this band and that band, it's like you're setting up every additional thing that you need is an additional hurdle. And each additional step, if you don't have it, is an opportunity to not do it. So the more sort of like Spartan or bare bones you can be with your approach to exercise, the more likely you're going to be able to do it on the road, in a hotel room, wherever.
And I would say if there's just a reason you can't physically do a workout, you have complete control of your diet. Eat as clean as you absolutely can on those days. Just eat cleaner. Like set a different nutritional goal for yourself. If genuinely a workout's not possible for you, don't just completely sabotage the day and eat poorly on top of it. Dial in the nutritional point, and I do think that's a win.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Eat enough protein, and you will not lose muscle mass.
There you go.
Especially if it's only a few days. Tying it back to protein.
I know. I love that.
Great. Did you have anything else to add on this one?
No, I think it's simple, that one, in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we don't overcomplicate it is really the key.
Yeah. One of the other notes I had on here is like, if you're missing 1 or 2 workouts, it's 1 week of 1 month of 1 year of your life. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. And on that note, I think we'll wrap this up. All right. Danielle, thanks so much.
Parker, it's always so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, again, everyone listening, this always comes out the last Monday of each month. So check back in at the end of March. We'll do another one of these. Thanks so much.
Fantastic.
Bye, Danielle.
Bye.
Hey, everyone. That's all for today's show. I want to thank you so much for stopping by and watching, especially if you've made it all the way to this point. If you'd like to be notified when new episodes are going to be released, feel free to subscribe and make sure you hit the bell button as well. To learn more about today's guest, feel free to look in the description. You can also visit the podcast website, which is exploringhealthpodcast.com. That website will also be linked in the description. As always, likes, shares, comments are a huge help to me and to this channel and to the show. So any of that you can do, I would really appreciate. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.